Hi, this is Stacia, and I wanted to show a game from the Parma Championships that I played against Dave Bumba. I had the white pieces rated 1773, and Dave Bumba sported the black pieces rated 1650, although he's been 1800 quite a bit in the past. So, decent player to be sure. And we always have interesting games, so I thought I would show this one. So, okay, I played the move d4. He went d5, and I went c4. My normal move against this. Now, almost always he avoids my Slav exchange lines. But this time he took it on, and I really like the way he played this game. So I'm going to show you what he did right. Okay, I took, and bishop f4 is my main move these days. So I play this before knight c3 now because I want to stop the move e5, which I've been warned that's a pretty good line for black. So this little move order finesse helps avoid that particular line. Black played knight c6, totally normal, and now e3. And of course, this is still theory here. Now here, black would usually just develop their knight and not commit the e-pawn just yet. But Dave Bumba played bishop f5 here. Whoa, and I have a lot of arrows. Let me get rid of those. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, I think we're good now. Knight c6, e3, bishop f5. Yeah. Okay, and here, usually bishop f5 is not recommended in the Slav exchange. And the reason is queen b3 can be a good move here. And in fact, it turns out queen b3 is definitely the best move here, and probably the reason why grandmasters don't play bishop f5. Like after queen b3, one of black's best tries would be like queen b6. And that does give white sort of a long-term advantage. And I've played this position before where you just play against these pawns. It's not so easy, and yeah, the rook's more active, so black has a little compensation for this, but I would say white's slightly better in this game. And turns out I probably should have went for this. Not to mention, though, that after queen b3, black has other moves too. Like the computer gives the mysterious f6. I wonder what that's all about. Probably playing some kind of e5 thing. There's also queen d7, which would defend both of these weak pawns that our queen on b3 is hitting. So just a little insight into that. But in this game, he played bishop f5, and I noticed that after queen b3, I didn't have my knight b5 stuff hitting the c7 square, which I normally like. So I decided to prepare with knight c3. And now queen b3, knight b5 could create threats on c7. Okay, he went e6, defending this pawn. And now I went queen b3. So I'm hitting this, but basically I'm a tempo too late. And it's because of this nice move that black makes here. And if you want to pause your video and figure out what it was, go ahead and do so now. So yeah, I actually missed this move. This is a new idea I haven't seen in response to queen b3. Bishop b4. This looks a little crazy, but it's basically like interference. It's hard to take the b pawn when the bishop's in the way. Can't do that. It also pins my knight, so my knight's not going to b5 anymore. And it kind of makes my queen move a little silly even, I would say. So here I determined there really was no tricks to play for, and I just continue with development. Knight f3, and now he played what I thought was kind of a funny move, knight g to e7. So computer kind of likes it, but I thought this was a weird move. The knight is definitely good on the f6 square, where it can jump into the e4 square. So when the knight came here, I thought that was a little bit passive. And yeah, white's still slightly better here. I think after knight f6, black's just equal here, I would say. Or maybe not yet. White's still a tempo up. Okay. So after knight g to e7, now I make a slight mistake. I play the move bishop e5. Looks really tempting though, doesn't it? I'm pinning the knight, which is defending the bishop. So if he does nothing, I'm just going to play bishop or queen takes b4 next. But he saw this and castled. This unpins the knight, and it's a developing move. And now I castled. And now a6. Yeah, and so now this kind of shows that bishop b5 maybe wasn't the best move, because I don't really want to trade this bishop for this knight. He'll recapture with his knight, and that improves his knight, and I'd be giving up my light square bishop, which is my good bishop. Notice my pawns are on dark squares. And I'd be giving up the bishop pair. So yeah, taking is just totally wrong. And I can't maintain the pin with bishop a4, so really the only move here is bishop e2. And sure enough, and I'll just scoot back for a second, after he played knight g to e7, and I played this move, the computer says to play bishop e2 right now. So this is definitely just a waste of a tempo. I gave black a6 for free. And I think if the knight was on f6, I could have still played this move. So I'm sure that's why he put his knight there. Okay, so bishop b5, castles, castles, a6. I retreat the bishop, and now black goes knight g6. Okay, so now that my bishop's not here anymore threatening to take, now he moves his knight to a better square. Although I have to say, I think this knight would much rather be on f6 now. I mean, he's attacking my bishop, that's all well and good, but like, after this, I don't think that knight's very good. Doesn't really have anywhere to go. Black played queen e7. So defending the bishop, getting ready to move his rooks to the c-file most likely. And I played rook f to c1. And I actually really like this move, and I was happy to see this is the top computer move. Why am I excited? Because I'm silly. No, but like the real reason is I almost always bring my A rook over here. And I didn't, because I kept seeing that knight a5 hits my queen. And it seemed like often the queen would want to drop back to the d1 square. Notice this bishop's doing a really nice job covering my light squares. So I determined that if I was going to drop my queen back to d1, I want these guys communicating with each other. So, and if I was scared of e5, I might keep my rook over here on the king side, but I don't think black can easily get that in, so that's another part of my decision there. So I don't know if those kind of comments are helpful. I know they're a bit nuanced, but that's how I think, so because I'm just sharing my thoughts. All right, so rook f to c8, knight a4. Oh, I played knight a4. No. Hang on a second. Rook f to c8. Rook f to c1 I played. Oh, and then he did the same thing. Now this isn't as good for him because unfortunately he has some geometric issues. Notice my knight's coming into a4. I wanted to play this anyway, and now it's even better because of the fork on the rooks. He responded with knight a5, attacking my queen. I dropped back to d1 as discussed. And now he played what I thought was a really good move, and I actually missed this. Rook c6. And it's just a really pretty move, to be honest. It's preparing to double. It's guarding the square. And if I take with the rook, he can comfortably take back with this knight. So I actually really like that move. And okay, white has a couple ways to continue here. I feel like the two best moves for white now are a3, kicking the bishop, potentially playing b4. Then this knight will have to move, and then we can take the rook. Or we can play rook takes first. So in the game, I decided that I didn't like the lines with this because a lot of times his knight is going to come to c4. And also, yeah, I don't like to see bishop d6 in the Slav exchange. This bishop is usually pretty awesome. So when it gets traded off, I'm not all that happy about that. It makes the game more drawish for sure, more equal. And yeah, and I don't even understand. The computer wants knight to d2, and I don't even understand why at all, to be honest. I mean, maybe we're gonna do something on this diagonal later. I'm not really sure. And yeah, if I do play b4, this knight comes into c5, and he's just permanently on an awesome square. So I was seeing that kind of stuff, and I decided to play differently. I answered rook c6 with rook takes. So I knew he would take back with the knight, but my idea was rook c1. And now I'm threatening to take the c file, basically. Notice that if he brings his rook to c8, the knight's actually pinned. So he would have to make another move like queen d7, I guess, to defend the rook or something. So yeah, very nuanced still, very slight advantage for white. Basically just a tempo, or maybe less than a tempo. Okay, but let's keep going. Okay, so here my opponent actually made a mistake. He played the move queen d8. So I expect that he's preparing rook c8 to come, and then the knight won't be pinned. But the problem with this is the move queen b3. And I did not see this in the game, but it turns out this is a pretty annoying move. So queen b3 is hitting the b pawn, as it often does in this opening. And we're also threatening rook takes c6. So rook takes c6, pawn takes c6, and queen takes bishop. And we would win 2 pieces for a rook, which is definitely worth it. So, yeah, queen b3 is pretty strong because of that. And then if they move the bishop, we'll take the b pawn. And then I think, you know, like let's say this happens. Not to mention we're threatening a3, so the bishop, you know, just can't stay there. Yeah, I mean, okay, we could take this first. Take, whoops. Yeah, don't mouse slip. Now this is just an awesome position for white. I think you'll agree. This knight's kind of like just hanging now. I've got the c file. My queen is invading. My knight's going to be awesome. I meant to draw an arrow. Like this. And I still have my light square bishop. My pawns are on dark squares. Okay, that's a lot, right? Pretty awesome position. Computer says +6 here, even though I'm basically up a pawn. So that was just too good of a pawn to lose. Oh, I forgot to mention I'm hitting the rook with check. So, okay. Unfortunately, I didn't find queen b3. And instead, I played the move knight c5. Now, I do want to point out a nuance again because I like this kind of stuff. Another thing about queen b3 that's really interesting is you can just prepare knight c5 with queen b3. So like, let's say queen b3, and let's say black plays the best move, which is queen e7. So they actually were on the square. They played queen d8, then queen b3, and they should come back. That's really hard for a human to do, that's for sure. Now I can play a3, and the thing is, now I'm going to get knight c5 in, and there's no bishop takes c5 anymore. Like, if the bishop goes to d6, I'll trade it off. And if the bishop drops back to a5, well, now I can come into c5, and this is going to be really painful. Hitting all kinds of stuff. I mean, my queen and knight are on this pawn, so he could defend it this way. But then, boom, I can take that. And notice that if he takes with the pawn, this pawn was overworked. So I can grab the knight with advantage. All right, so let's go back to the game. Unfortunate for me, I played knight c5 directly, no queen b3 first. So I jumped in like this. And now this can be answered by bishop takes c5. Oh, and I'm sorry, he didn't even do that right away. First he played this move. So this defends the b pawn. Pretty interesting move, actually. And now I played queen a4. So it looks like a double attack, but now he can just trade. And now I have a question for you. So you're white to move. Would you recapture here with a pawn or with a rook? Now I'm going to give you my thoughts on this. Computer actually says that rook takes c5 is slightly better. So you take the bishop. White has the two bishops now, and it wins a tempo on the knight. The knight's going to drop back. And here, the computer just wants to play slowly and says that white is +1 better. Pretty interesting. I took with a pawn, however. And this is also fine, just not quite as strong. And I thought I would explain why. So it's a bit more double-edged to play this way because our d-pawn was controlling the center, like this. And now it's not controlling as much of the center. Now it's transformed into a queenside majority, a 3 versus 2. Which is a nice advantage, means we're going to get a pass pawn on the queen side and be threatening to queen over here, potentially. The other reason I played this is I like to open up the square for my knight, so knight d4. The reason this isn't good is because black is able to trade off this knight with advantage. And on top of that, black's pawns in the center, he has a 2-to-1 against me in the center. So if black can start pushing their pawns, they're going to end up with a pass pawn like on the d file, for example, or maybe the e file. So I hope that makes sense. I find practically, though, that it's difficult for black to play against this c-pawn. I've won many Slav exchanges because my c-pawn gets out of control and black just gets run over. So I had good feelings about this move. And still, though, the computer says white has only a slight advantage. I admit during the game, I thought I had a little more than slight advantage at this point. Okay, so d takes c5. The knight blockades. And maybe that's the other reason this move isn't so strong, is that black's able to blockade so easily. I played knight d4. This is the idea. Improve my knight and attack the bishop. But black has some nice resources here, like knight g to e7, which was played. So now if I take the knight, he takes. And this knight that wasn't so good on g6 is really good on c6, blockading, but also, you know, controlling the center, attacking my knight. Maybe he's going to come in here at some point. So the knight's just pretty good there. All right, I played queen b3. I like to move with threats if I can. And I thought it's annoying for black that they can't really push this pawn. So they need to defend it. He went queen c8, defending. And now I played queen b6. Looks like a good move. Like, I feel like this is a desirable move. But yeah, I just feel like in this particular position, it's really hard for white to break through. And in fact, you'll see what I mean about this knight on d4. Looks like a great piece, but now black takes it. Okay, I took back. And now this knight comes in. This is desirable for black, and now he's attacking my pawn. So even though I love my rook being on the c-file right now, especially opposite the black queen, rook d1's basically forced, or I'm going to lose this pawn. And the computer agrees. And then black played a5. Pretty cool move. I think he's kind of like eyeing this move up, although he can't play it just yet because my bishop's defending there. And so I missed the best move in this position. If you want to take a guess, go ahead and pause your video. Yeah, I played the move a3, which I think is just incorrect for a lot of reasons. The best move is a4. So I think the point of this is we're not going to let black play a5. Or I'm sorry, we're not going to let black play a4, knight a5, knight b3. Notice that if the knight gets to the b3 square or any piece, it's going to blockade my b pawn, and white really wants to break through on the queen side. If white breaks through here, we're going to have a pass pawn and all our pieces streaming in. Notice this bishop is a beast, so I'm really glad he didn't get traded off. So, yeah, a4 was definitely the right move here, and something I'll want to remember for sure. But I played the move a3, inaccurate, maybe a mistake. Come on, computer. I know a3 is bad. Okay, so a3, and now black can play a4, knight a5, knight b3, like I was saying. But on top of that, this knight can pivot into the c4 square, and he can pivot his bishop into the b3 square, where that will blockade, and this knight will be great. And yeah, it's just a worse position than I could have had. And I really wanted to play b4, but now, because this pawn's here, he always has en passant. So it would be a takes b3 en passant. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Am I talking a lot? Don't answer that. All right, so h3 was my choice here. So I felt like the position was kind of calm at this point, so I decided to make a square for my king so I don't get back ranked later. This is fine. Yeah, now the knight comes to a5. Excellent move. Here I played bishop b5. This is fine. Yeah, and I kept thinking about this move. Like, it looks pretty intimidating, but the computer hasn't recommended it. So, yeah, I kind of was thinking, like, what does this really do? Does it do anything? You know, I don't think it does. So that's why I kept holding off on that. I was waiting for it to do something. And in the meantime, though, I'm controlling all these squares, so it has to be a little bit annoying for black. Okay, black played bishop c2. Interesting idea. My rook comes back to c1, which is nice. But now his bishop is stationed on the b3 square. So now my pawns are completely immobile, and that's bad news for white. Yeah, and it was around here that I started getting in time pressure. So if you've watched my videos, you know this is kind of normal for me. I was down to 4 minutes here. Sad because this was a G90 game. Yeah, G90 with 5 seconds delay. So I didn't manage my time as well as I should have, I suppose. All right, and I make a bad move here. I push my c pawn. Yeah, I don't think this is right. My pawn is actually pinned, so pushing it is very suspicious for that alone. But what's worse is that black can take, and I can't even take back really. Because if I do, which I did in the game, black actually has this cool little move, rook a6. And that's just killer. Notice my bishop is hit. The knight's attacking it. The bishop's also pinned to the rook. This is lights out. So I'm really glad my opponent didn't find that move. So computer says, you know, after this move, I can play rook c5, and the position's about equal. Basically defending the rook so that now if I take, it won't be pinned. But okay, I did take, which is a total blunder. But now he played knight c4, which is also a blunder. And then really, the computer says take the exchange. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. Without any time on my clock, I don't find stuff like this very easy. So takes, and he can take here, but now we have this move. Takes with check. And this is kind of an interesting position to play. It's probably equal, except I like white a little bit because we have the two bishops. Although this pawn, I don't know if we can ever get this going or not. Maybe. Looks like it's tough, though, to win. All right, so let's go back a little bit. Bishop takes c6, knight c4, hitting the queen. And I play queen c5. I don't know about that move. It's probably not right. He could still go rook a6, in fact. But I won't spend too much time on this now since this isn't time pressure, but I do want to show you what happened. It was kind of interesting. So rook a5. So tempo on the queen. And yeah, my queen's defending my bishop, so I was getting really scared here. Also, this knight, when it went to c5, it like severed my rook off from the game. But I found this kind of cool move, queen e7. So now, if the queen takes, then black gets mated. Checkmate. And so he didn't take there. He made a space for his king. And now I played bishop e8. So I really felt like I was winning here. But, of course, I had like less than 2 minutes on my clock. I was getting really scared. All right, he came back. And now I took here. King there. And last one for you guys. White has a killer move here. A move that I really like. Queen G6 check is possible, but I really like this other move. So if you want to pause the video, go ahead and see if you can find it. Yeah, and I saw this move during the game, but I didn't find why this works. So this is a great move to play, right? Bishop e5, exclam. And the point is that we're threatening mate. So this is checkmate. And the knight is actually pinned. And I missed this. And in fact, so black takes, we could take the queen and play it this way. Like knight takes our queen, rook takes a8. We can do it this way. Or after knight takes, let's see. What was the way I liked? Oh, I kind of like this one too. Queen f4 isn't interesting. No, I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. Yeah, really, this is the only move. My apologies. I think rook takes c8 is the only way to win. So pretty interesting, and unfortunately I didn't find it in the game. I think I did something like, I don't even have these moves written down, but I'm pretty sure that I went like bishop here, and then he went rook a7, and yeah, I ended up like trading this off, and somehow I end up screwing up and losing, so kind of sad. I like offered him a draw in a losing position. He's like, oh, I don't think so. It was my last hope, though. So kind of a sad loss for me, but interesting game. I mean, it really felt like it was a battle, and I'll just go through like some of the key moments real quick. I'm going to turn the computer off so we can go through this more quickly. All right, so it was a Slav exchange. I know a lot of people think this is a boring opening, but it really isn't at the club level and at the amateur level in general. Like at the grandmaster level, this is almost always a draw, but I've had a lot of interesting games in this opening. So bishop f5, if black can play this successfully, they basically will equalize, and he managed to do that this game. So next time I will play queen b3 and move early, and I'll go into this kind of stuff. So that's a note to myself. Always try to improve my opening by a move or two after a game. Okay, and we basically we're developing here. Actually, I went to the wrong variation. Okay, so this interesting resource, bishop b4, that's something I want to remember. Cutting off the queen from the b pawn and pinning the knight, very cool. Really like that move. So I'll watch that next time. Put his knight on that slightly worse square, but it does pay off. It stops my bishop b5 from being anything. Retreating my bishop, that was correct. Now his knight's not so good on g6, but later it comes back here, and it is useful, turns out. Yeah, rook f to c1, a nice move. And probably I could have won the game had I found queen b3 the second time. So where's that move? Yeah, it's coming up. Takes here. Yeah, after queen d8, this is the time for queen b3 right here. Threatening, rook takes c6, pawn takes, and then queen takes bishop on b4. So I really need to look at my candidate moves, is what that means. Because I think it's important when you look at these games and you see you miss something, it's important to ask, why did you miss it? Well, I must not have been checking all my captures and tempo moves, because I might have seen that rook takes here eliminates the defender of the bishop, and then I might have thought, how can I attack that bishop? Maybe queen b3, you know? And then maybe I'd see that queen b3 is hitting that b pawn as well. And that's another thing. So like, candidate moves are great, but it's also good to look at undefended pieces, like this pawn. So if you see an undefended piece, you might think, how can you attack it? Well, queen b3 x-rays it. So yeah, had I looked at this position closer and all my capturing potential moves, then I think I would have found queen b3. So that's something I definitely want to get better at, especially in a g90 game. Okay, and now I took with a pawn here. So I may try taking with the rook next time, because the computer says that's better. And I like to try new things. So I think next time I will do that, because pretty much I always take with a pawn in this type of situation. And I realize now that the knight was good on d4, but it couldn't do anything there except get traded. Yeah, my queen on b6 is good, but could never do anything. Yeah, and here I feel like black played really well, moving their a pawn and getting their pieces all active on the queen side. And I really need to watch for ideas like bishop c7 to bishop b3. I missed that idea, blockading my b pawn. That was really annoying. And a4. So I have a lot to learn about blockading. I've always been weak at blockading for some reason. Okay, yeah, and this idea, although I was down on time here. So, and that's the other thing. I shouldn't be scrambling for time at the end of the game. think I need to play the opening faster. That's one way I can improve my time management. And also spend time on critical positions, but maybe basic ones don't spend quite as much time. All right, well, so I lost this game, I guess I would say mostly due to time pressure, but also not finding some good moves. But I hope you enjoyed looking at this with me. And so I'm 2-2 in the Parma Championship. This was round 4 out of 7. So I do go back on Tuesday for round 5. So wish me luck, and hopefully I'll show some more games. Thanks for watching. Bye.